In honor of Pride Month, I will do my best, through God Almighty who strengthens me, to make more contents highlighting our struggles as queer people, especially queer black people. Most especially because no one is going to be doing it for us. And a lot of what is incentivizing me to do this is when I look at younger queer people who feel lost and they don't have any sense of direction, not from the media, not from the society, not from their families, not from churches, not from anywhere. There's a lot of emptiness. There's a lot of pain bottled up inside, and they don't have anyone at all. So, through God Almighty who strengthens me, I will do my best to highlight a lot as much as possible. Bear with me, knowing that I'm human, I'm still fallible, all of that good stuff. But I do want to start by talking about the whole coming out thing. There's a lot of pressure on coming out, okay? And there's nothing wrong with coming out. Visibility is always a good thing. As you can see, there's nothing hidden about me, chat. All my business is online because I don't give a damn. And part of that is also because, one, not just because I don't care, also because of the nature of work that I'm doing. If I'm going to be leading and talking truth to power, it's very important that I live my life as transparently, as openly as possible, so you can see that I am just like you and vice versa. That is true. But it's also very important that I highlight that you don't need to come out. You don't need to come out at all. The only person who needs to know your sexuality is the person that you are fucking or who's fucking you. That's it. It's just that simple. Okay? A lot of people who want to know about your sexuality are messy. Okay? They just want to gossip. They just want to find a reason to talk shit about you, discriminate against you, and just kill your vibe. Okay? Pay these people dust. I've always said there's a lot of stupid people in this world. They are in every shape, size, height, age, skin tone, financial status, Chad. Pay these people dust, okay? Limit encounter from the word as much as possible. I do it all the time. The amount of people that I have tolerated in my life, this is also why I ghost people, Chad. For me, it's a gift for me, or ability for me to meet people within seconds. I can tell if you're going to be in my life or not. You know, a lot of times the person in front of me doesn't even know. You know, but I listen to my spirit. My spirit tells me to honor thee now, okay? Because this person has been brought to me by my karma and vice versa, because there's something that needs to be learned. So I'm very patient with it. But the day my spirit tells me to drop your ass, I drop your ass. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of misery. There's a lot of mediocrity. There's a lot of BS. There's a lot of ineptitude in our people. It is not necessarily entirely our fault. A lot of it has been passed down to us through slavery, colonization, generational trauma, and so on and so forth. But the worst form of lack of intellect is arrogance. A lot of people just reek of arrogance. A lot of times it's covert, but do your best to pay these people dust. Do your best to live an encounter for your own good. Like I've mentioned before, if you have anything going good for you in this world, okay, anything at all, no matter what that thing is, do not share with people, because humans, there's something about the human psyche, the human ego, the human being that will try to ruin everything, okay? This is partly why the human mind is fallible, why the human being is fallen from grace, and why I've explained before, the Bible said the heart of man is desperately wicked. So keep it to yourself. If the best thing that you got going on for you is you making peace with your sexuality, or not even just your sexuality, the entirety of your being, limit encounter with the world, okay? Tolerate as much as possible. Tolerating doesn't necessarily mean fake. That's not the same thing. Fake means that you're not feeling it and you're pretending otherwise. Tolerance means that I don't recognize you, however, I must respect you here now. But at the end of this encounter, I won't be checking for you because there's nothing to check for. And then you pack your bag and move on. That's it. Limit encounter from the word as much as possible. There's a lot of dumbass people everywhere, including family members, including people who are well educated, including some Ivy League school graduates and things like that. They come in different shapes and sizes. If you don't recognize yourself in somebody, limit encounter. You don't need to come out to anyone. I also do want to highlight the reason why a lot of people come out, especially on social media. Again, I am very pro visibility, you know, because the more visible we are, the less taboo this whole thing is. However, you have to understand that people do anything for attention, okay? The human mind is so desperately seeking for validation that a lot of these so called coming out stories online, is nothing but attention whorism. I've seen all kinds of dissertations online about how they came out and things like that, including some people who were DL and they were married to a woman, and it's just a bunch of sappy shit because you want pity, you want a pity party, you know what I'm saying, or you're the victim and things like that. You'll be surprised how truly lonely and miserable a lot of people are inside, and they try to manipulate their ways into this world to gain sympathy and pity. I roll my eyes and keep moving, Chad. One thing about real recognizes real, okay? Yes, there are people who are publicly coming out because they know that it's necessary. Not even just to tell people or tell their family, but for their own healing. Okay, that is necessary, because your spirit has directed you to come out in that way. And it feels right for you, even though some people might not recognize it. Even though someone like me might see it and roll my eyes, it still does not negate the fact that that is the most in alignment with your most or your least action principle or your most authentic, simple being. Sure, not a problem. But in my opinion, a vast majority of people who come out online in the most flamboyant way are just seeking attention, Chad. There's no games we haven't played inside this set. So don't fall for that shit. That's one. Another thing, too, is there's a lot of glamorization about coming out that unfortunately a lot of queer people, especially young queer people, fall for. Because as a coach, I've seen a lot of queer people who say that after they came out and announced to the entire family, they thought there was going to be a party on the other end of things. No, there's no party, okay? I keep saying that there's no gay community or there's no queer community. I know some people try to argue with me. Sure. To you, there might be a community. If you have a sense of community as a queer person, good for you. God bless you. But from my observation, I have not seen what I can say is community. Perhaps because I define community different. I see a lot of parties and having a good time and, situationships and, frenemies and, bickerings and things like that. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that because at the end of the day, we are social beings. But my definition of community is one that is rich in empathy. Empathy enough to understand that we're humans, we're fallible people, we fall, we're not perfect. There's that human element of being fallen from grace. And you pour into me and I pour into you. There's a lot of empathy involved. And I, Uche, the observer, I have not seen enough of that empathy. I see a lot of slander. I see a lot of messiness. I see a lot of who's sucking, who's fucking who. I see a lot of instigation. I see a lot of gaslighting, pointing fingers, and things like that. I see a lot of all kinds of mess. Okay, again, those things are not necessarily bad per se. But I don't see a lot of the other side of things where we come together, we cry together, we grow together. I see a lot of shaming. There's a lot of shame culture attached to this so-called loser community. And I'll break it down further as to some of the things or the habits that we consume that perpetuates that mentality. So don't expect that once you come out, it's going to be a party. Absolutely not. Okay. Matter of fact, you might actually feel a lot more lonely because you might not necessarily recognize yourself in the people that you're coming out to. Okay. There's a saying that goes something along the lines of children who are not shown love at home go to the streets to find it. But unfortunately, what these kids or the children find in the streets is not love. What you find in the streets is vices. Vices of the D word. I'm not going to say because TikTok doesn't like the D word, chat. I don't know. Alcohol, sex, pornography, and so on and so forth. These are the vices that you see in the streets. And those things are not necessarily bad per se if you are about that life. But unfortunately, a lot of young people are not about that life. And you confuse that for, oh, that's what being gay is, or that's what being queer is. And you lose yourself further and further and further. And this is why the S word, is very high in the queer community, especially with black queer people, especially with queer trans people. Because no one talks about the coming out, the process of tapping into a whole nother echelon of loneliness and dealing with all kinds of messy ass queens and it's a hot mess. So don't think that once you come out it's going to be roses. Absolutely not. You're tapping into a whole echelon of fuck shit. The best coming out is the one you come out to yourself. Do not lie to yourself. You can practice in the mirror. I know sometimes it's very difficult for some people to open their mouth and say, I am gay or I am lesbian or I am bisexual, but practice. Practice. Eventually your mind will get used to it. Even if you're not sure, be honest with yourself to say that I am something I am not sure. And I am open minded enough to receive myself as I walk through this path of becoming. And I'm open minded enough to know that God is with me. Just do your own mantra. As a coach, I teach people how to do these things with intentionality. You have to believe it. You have to give your all, body, mind, and spirit in order for this to work. If not, you're just wasting your time. Come out to yourself. You don't need to come out to anyone else. Be intentional in creating boundaries. Make it explicitly known what your boundaries are and the consequences of breaking your boundaries. And make it be a consequence or consequences that you can keep up, because this is how you build integrity. If your boundary is cutting somebody off for a whole month, if they break that boundary, make sure you're about that life and cut that person off for a whole month. Next time, they will not be quick to break your boundary. They will still talk shit, but trust me, they will act different. This is how you build integrity and work on yourself and having thick skin. I've talked about this so many times. It is impossible for you to achieve anything in this life and or go through this life without thick skin. You must be a stoic, okay? Prioritize that. Strength in body, mind, and spirit, but especially your mind. You must be a stoic. You must have thick skin. Stop being so fucking sensitive. My definition of stoicism is the ability to lean into what is because it is what it is. You don't run away from challenges. You don't run away from anything. You just make peace with what is. If it is something that it does not align with who you are, do your best to mitigate it, walk away from it, limit encounter as much as possible. But if that's not an option, lean into it because it is what it is. At the end of the day, that is your karma, that is your fate, and that is your blessing from God. Sort of like Paul, is it Paul or Saul? They asked God to take away that thorn, and God said, no, this is a blessing. You have to lean into it and trust that God knows what God is doing. And thank God Almighty that all this shit is temporary anyway. At the end of the day, we will inevitably get the fuck out this realm. Hold on tight, okay? So, yes, I say all that to say you're not alone, especially young, queer, African people. Okay, you're not alone. That we don't have a lot of visibility, especially in the media. A lot of what you see is all kinds of shit. There's nothing wrong with those things, but it's just they're so highlighted. The reels are so bright and flamboyant and braggadocious and flashy. That's not all there is to life. There is the other side of life as well. If you don't recognize yourself in those things or those people, limit encounter and keep working on yourself silently. I have gotten to the point in my life, chat. I am a loner, complete loner. I limit encounter with people because most of my interaction with people has been tolerance because I don't recognize myself in people. And I've made peace with that. You can do the exact same thing too and only interact with people or things or places that sit well with your spirit and let it be in accordance to how it comes natural to you. Remember, anyone who expects you to be anything other than yourself before they can love you or accept you first, that is not love. And have enough self-esteem for yourself to limit encounter or remove yourself completely from that person or thing or place. No exceptions whatsoever. Family members included, okay? Work on yourself, protect yourself in body, mind, and spirit. Remember, you do not owe anyone a coming out story. Absolutely not. Nobody needs to know your sexuality except the person who you're fucking or who's fucking you. That's it. Stay the hell away from people. You got something good going on for you. Shut up. Even God warned, is it Samson, to not spill his tea to Delilah, and he did. Look at what happened to him. The one of the beauties of separation is that we get to enjoy that separation. People don't need to know everything about you, and somebody be careful about who the person who's digging so hard to know shit about you. Okay, the egoic mind is very, very perverse. It's very twisted. You will be surprised the length people will go to dim your light. And give grace because it's not always intentional. Okay, sometimes it's intentional, but it's not always intentional. Trust me, there's a reason why the Bible said that the heart of man is desperately wicked. This is true. Protect your light as little as it is, hold on to it, and limit encounter with the world. This place is mad. There's nothing as impressive as the media tries to make it seem. This is part of the capitalistic dance that the wealthy elite do to have you hooked so that your life force, your essence can flow into their bank accounts, okay? Limit encounter. That being said, happy Pride, Uche, peace, and love.